good morning and welcome on Newspaper today on OSBC television, Iliawiyoke, Bale Oshogbo, Osun State, Nigeria. I'll be your host for today's edition of Newspaper today. My name remains Oluwa Togiloba Odunuga, and I can assure you that we are going to be serving the purpose of informing you, educating you, and entertaining you at the same time on Newspaper today's edition. Like we always have it, my guest is on board again this morning for us to look into topical issues surrounding us this morning. Good morning, citizen Lolawe. Welcome on Newspaper today. Yes, I know it's really cold out there, but I really want to advise you all to please make sure you wear something that would really get cold out of you. And so to begin with, I want to look into some newspaper headlines, then would ponder on it and discuss and trash out. The first I will be picking on is the Blueprint newspaper. Amid threat of protest today, federal government begs labor, police caution. Ministerial screening, 1.6 trillion naira subsidy on electricity unsustainable. This statement is being credited to El-Rufai. You find this on the front page of the Blueprint newspaper. Again, Nigeria cut short OPEC's production output in July. CBN excludes mortgage microfinance bank from cash withdrawal limit. You'd find this and more from the Blueprint newspaper. Now moving on to the Daily Times newspaper this morning. Akpabio Far North Senator saved El-Rufai from answering divisive politics questions. Dilapidated federal roads in Delta Edo is now killing fields. You'd find this and more from the front page of the Daily Times newspaper. Oil prices for Niger Delta as NDDC, NLNG seek MOU. You'd find this and more from the front page of the Daily Times newspaper. Now moving on to Daily Trust newspaper. UK announces €10 million facility to support food security in Nigeria. Subsidy. Marketers selling filling stations over poor sales. Profit. This statement is being credited to Ipman. 2 rescued as helicopter crashes into building in Lagos. You found this and more from the Daily Trust newspaper this morning. Moving on to the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Military can't handle Nigeria problem. Agbaje, a political scientist. This statement is being credited to Agbaje, a political scientist. Nigeria raises posers over Tinubu's relief package. You'd find this from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. IGB talks tough as NLC TUC gear up for protest. You find this and more from the front page of the Nigerian Tribune newspaper. Now to tell you the New Telegraph newspaper. NLC to Nigerians. We have no reason to suspend nationwide protests. Therefore, join us. This statement is being credited to NLC. Niger, we are prepared for any presidential directive. The statement is being credited to the military. Red squeeze Ipman over fuel price hike. You find this and more from the front page of the New Telegraph newspaper. Now moving on to Leadership newspaper this morning. Leadership postpones conference on drug abuse. Senate to send petitions against nominees to security agencies. Palliatives. Labour begins nationwide protest. Federal government declares action illegal. You find this and more from the front page of Leadership newspaper. Tribunal reverses judgment in Atiku Obi's petitions. Trump indicated over attempted subversion of US presidential poll. You find this and more from the front page of the Leadership newspaper. Now to the Guardian newspaper this morning before we come back to our guest. NLC defies truce, proceed on nationwide protest. Senate shields El-Rufai from petition over insecurity in Kaduna. Foreign investment in equities markets declines by 90.6% in 10 years. You find this and more from the front page of the Guardian newspaper. Now to this day newspaper. At ministerial screening, Wale Edun says Naira fair value is 700 Naira per $1. Trump charged with effort to overturn his 2020 presidential election loss. You'll find this and more from this day newspaper. Now, welcome once again, citizen Lolawe. Welcome on Newspaper Review today. Now, the top of the morning is just the protest, which is being said that NLC want to embark on. Do you think this will solve current situation in Nigeria, or do you think it will make the government do what they need to do on time?
Well, let me start by saying what necessitated the talk about protest or no protest is as a result of the removal of petroleum subsidy, which we all agree, should go and has gone. The immediate past administration didn't make provision for fuel subsidy beyond May. And that was the announcement made by the current president of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And then the implication is that once you remove fuel subsidy, the cost of fuel will go up in the market. And then in addition to that policy was the policy to also float the naira at the foreign exchange market, which has also made the value of naira to depreciate, and then the price of dollar to rise. But economists and I agree that with a little patience, things will improve. This is a new administration. Yes, he was part of, I would say, government is continuing. And then the party that is presently in government is the same as the party that was in government before him. And then since they had taken a decision to remove the fuel subsidy come May, things should have been put in place to cushion the effect of the removal of the fuel subsidy. The effect we are all feeling now is a failure to have put something in place before the fuel subsidy was removed. What the president did was just an announcement of the state of things, because no provision was made for fuel subsidy beyond May. So how do we go from here? I agree that we should not just, I do not support the idea of throwing money at problems. It may solve an immediate problem, but what about future problem? Is it also sustainable? It is not sustainable, and then it is not. It has no future, and then it may also create an immediate problem instead of solving a problem. If you pump additional money into the market when the level of productivity has not gone up, we are already grappling with inflation because we have too much money chasing very few goods and services. So if the volume of money in circulation increases, and then without a corresponding increase in production, it will take us to a galloping inflation situation, which will not be good for anybody. So I agree with some of the intervention brought up by the current administration, although they still need to do more. And then they also have to look at things that they can do immediately to alleviate the suffering of Nigerians. Nigerians are suffering, and then they must also show us that they are also cutting down on their own expenses, and that their lifestyle is their lifestyle is changing to show that they are in this sacrifice, that they are also making the necessary sacrifices with us. And the way to go about that is to cut down on the cost of governance and then their individual lifestyle. We don't want to see them ride in a very expensive vehicles, as we have had in the past that they were planning to buy expensive vehicles when Nigerians are down, when many Nigerians cannot even afford 3 square meals, which is forcing Nigerians to go into slavery in foreign lands. Just on Monday we marked the World Anti-Human Trafficking Day, and that is as a result of the hardship in the land. How do we make the country better? We have to empower, we have to look at how the level of production, of the productivity level in the country can be improved upon. And that's where I agree with some of the interventions that the present administration has come up with to support MSE, small businesses, medium scale businesses, and even big manufacturing firms. I support the idea of them supporting transport companies. This is a time that Nigerians should come together, go into partnership, float transport companies that will be sustainable, that will also help our environment. If we need vehicles that can move large number of people at a time. That way we will reduce the impact of and then also use change from fossil fuel to something better. And that's where I also agree with the government about looking in the area of gas that will be powered by vehicles that will be powered by gas, and then we should also look at electricity, vehicles that can be powered by electricity, and then there will be a need for the Rural Electrification Agency to also start putting electricity stations where vehicles can be recharged at reasonable intervals around the country. That will also create employment for Nigerians. We help us to reduce the level of unemployment. We create wealth and then reduce the level of poverty in the land, so that Nigeria will stop being the poverty capital of the world. I also like what the government is talking about doing with agriculture. But I just want to see what the government will do for women and youth in the area of agriculture. Because women and youth must be included in that program, and their peculiar situations must also be taken into consideration. They must not treat us as equal. You don't ask an heavyweight champion, you don't match an heavyweight champion with a lightweight champion and say you are having a match. No, you want to commit murder if you do that. So if matching, not looking at the peculiar situation of women, youth, and people living with disabilities in developing programs and policies, we amount to nothing but working against the interest of that group, and that is why past policies have not succeeded. So if the plan of this present administration must succeed, must be successful in the area of agriculture, another thing, they must factor in the peculiar situation of women, youth, and people living with disabilities.
All right, thank you so much, Ma. I really want to agree with you with your submission, and this is coming from the Daily Trust newspaper. UK announces 10 million euros facility to support food security in Nigeria.
Yeah, that is good if they will allow us spend the money judiciously, because I agree with I can't remember her name. She wrote a book on dead aid. That is, most of these aids are dead on arrival because they do not really address our peculiar situations. And then the technical support comes from the countries providing the aid